Good day, St. Lucia, and welcome to another edition of Chill and Chat. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis. Today, I have with me MP for Castries South, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire. Good evening, Dr. Hilaire, and welcome to Chill and Chat.
Hi, good evening to you, and certainly a pleasure to be your guest today. I think the program is widely becoming such a popular chiller and chat opportunity, and a lot of people are talking about it. So I am humble in a way to be your guest, and certainly looking forward to our dialogue this evening.
Great, and I'm looking forward to it because you are my MP. I am from Cicero, so it gives me a chance to drill the person who has been representing my constituency for the last 4.5 years. So let's do it.
And I intend to ask you for your vote once again. So I hope at the end of the evening I would have convinced you to vote for me once again.
We'll see about that. Once again, you sure I did the first time?
And it's called secret ballot after all, so
exactly. Yeah. But I didn't.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, Dr. Hilaire, you are, as we said, from the constituency. Where in particular? Tell us about your formative years from Castries South.
Well, my mother is from Bassa Joseph, which is part of the constituency. I was born and raised in the lower part of Monroe. Basically, we grew up, and our areas, you know, the boys who lime on the block were called the drag boys or the bridge boys. My grand aunt, my brother, and other relatives lived in the old cemetery. So basically, if you consider the old cemetery hospital road, that area, and of course the 4 road at the bottom, so that was basically our block, our liming area. So I grew up in that area. In my teenage years, my mother moved to Laclery after the Labour Party won in '79. She was one of those who benefited from getting a plot of land in Laclery and to have our own space, and I spent some of my years growing up in Laclery, but essentially born and raised, you know, Lower Monroe Road, Hospital Road, the Bannan area. You had to go to Bannan almost every other day to get your milk from Mr. Laborde and to get your fish from the fishermen in Bannan. We learned to swim in Bannan, and essentially that was our stomping ground.
You have been, I mean, growing up in Castries South, moving to Laclery, I remember at one point you said, you know, you could have literally been one who was lost to the streets, lost up. What do you think saved you from that life? Well,
I think you can just imagine the social circumstances, the economic circumstances raising in the area in which we were, challenging circumstances. I think in many ways, the mother that I had, my mother always had a philosophy that we didn't have big name, you didn't have money, but it's education that will make you a man. And she would say it in Creole. So in many ways, we grew up with that ethos, that belief that education really mattered. And also the change of government in '79 made a difference, because my mother wanted for her to have her own plot of land, her own house, and stop renting a piece of land in the area. Could not get it. The Labour Party changed in '79. Mikey Pilgrim assisted, gave her, because he was minister responsible for urban development and housing, a plot of land in Laclery. We got our own spot, and that helped send about 3 or 4 of us to university, because that land was the land that was mortgaged. It's one reason why I believe in a St. Lucia Labour Party. I believe in the PROUD program, because it gives opportunity for the marginalized to now become empowered. So there was that in terms of the social circumstances and the changes and how it helped me. My mother was a very strong woman who herself did not have the kind of education that, you know, we end up having. And almost all of us ended up in university and to do master's degrees, whatnot. But also from growing up, I had a strong sense of social justice. I had this, you know, I grew up on the block. I must tell you, you know, how did we a Rastafarian, how did I have my locks and stuff like that. I hated Babylon and the system, and I thought it was unfair. We didn't have playing field, we didn't have a court, we didn't have, you know, circumstances. The police would pass many times, stop and search guys on the block, you know, for Okay, I mean, in those days, you know the attitude towards marijuana and the attitude towards Rastafarian and people on the block. So I grew up with a very strong sense of social justice because I hated what I saw happening around me. You know, the conditions of people, their conditions of living, and just the system. I mean, I felt the system was very oppressive. I really thought so. And that drove me to get involved in student government. So at school, and I was a very quiet, shy person, and by nature I am that kind of person.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I have no fear of the camera and the crowds, whatnot. But, you know, I can be a very introverted person. But I always like defending people. I always like talking up whenever I believe somebody has been treated unfairly. So at school, I started getting involved in student council and to get involved in the student movement. And then NYC was being formed, you know, and I got involved in that. And all of that was just because inherently I had this sense of social justice and fighting for the marginalized and the poor because I came out of some of those circumstances.
You know, just reading about those days, very, you know, militant group of young persons, and you would have been part of that first wave with Mary Michelle, and I know you, comrade, Stevenson King, a part of the student movement. How do you think that has, how do you think that has happened, changed now from what you know as a young person growing up?
Well, it's changed dramatically. If you recall, in our times, you didn't have technology, you didn't have mobile phones, you didn't have social media. When we were involved in the youth movement, Mario, who had just written as a lawyer, had a little Nissan Sunny. And we used to take that car and go all over the island, literally having youth meetings. And sometimes when Mario could not make it, or we had multiple meetings, Faustinus Faisal, who was the first field officer of the NYC, myself and some of the executive members, I mean, we literally took bus sometimes to go to Soufrière for a meeting. Now, in those days, you wouldn't get bus after 1:30 in the afternoon to go to Soufrière. So we'll take a bus, get to Soufrière, reach there 1 o'clock or so, hung out on the block, hung out with the fellas, wait for football to start. After football, we have a meeting at the clubs. And then we now have to figure out how we're getting back home. Faustinus lives in Monrepo. I live in Castries. So sometimes we would take get a ride to Vieux-Fort. Now, we usually would schedule our meetings like Monday, Tuesdays, if we're going down south, because the banana boat would collect bananas on Tuesday night. And we would get a ride with one of the guys with a pickup that would drop us in Monrepo. Now, Faustinus is home, but I'm not home yet. So then I have to find how I'm going to get to Castries by myself. But there was no fear in those days. We would do it. And if I don't get a ride, I would sleep by Faustinus next morning. Or sometimes we're in Soufrière, we don't get a ride. We sleep by one of the guys. So we develop a very strong bond in NYC. People like Bernard Haynes and Yatta and Giovanni and quite a lot of the guys, Ken Patrick and Gabriel. And so all over the island, we almost had this, you know, camaraderie and solidarity among ourselves, because guys would go down to a meeting in say, Labris Roselle, and you can't get back home. You just sleep by one of the partners, you sleep on his mother's settee, or you just bunk anywhere. That's how we grew up in the youth movement. So we were very close-knit. We were also very militant because we believe in the cause for youth development. That was like a lodge. We believe ideologically, we were driven by that. And it will be interesting. I mean, one of these, I'll share with you an article somebody just got in the archives and sent to me. Is an interview I did in 1993, just before I went to university, talking about youth in St. Lucia. It's almost the same issue, the same general issue that we were talking about. So, you know, it has changed. Now, no young person will just take a ride, go down the coast and have no idea how he's going back home. And certainly we had quite a few women involved. You're not going to advise any young woman to stand up by the roadside 11 o'clock hiking a ride. Yes. You know, it's just not going to happen. So those circumstances have changed. The way of interacting with young people has also changed dramatically. In our time, it was largely face-to-face, and you put an ad in the newspaper. So if you go to the archives now, you will see NYC would have put notices in the newspaper to tell young people, or we use a tongue crier to announce there's a youth meeting. Now there's WhatsApp, you know, Facebook, Instagram. So it has changed. It is not as personal, it's not as interactive in the sense of person to person like it used to be. I say to the youth leaders now, look, you have more opportunities, but my days were better than yours. My days, it was a lot easier to do youth work. There was no murders like now. There were no robberies and rapes like now. People were more in the coup spirit and more relationship-oriented than now. So it's more difficult for them now, for sure. Too many distractions. I would never trade what we had for what's happening now.
Understood. So, living your life as, I mean, you've clearly always been involved in some kind of politics, whether it's student affairs politics, youth politics, but then you would have moved on, you've gone away, gotten a PhD, studied at some of the most premier colleges in the world, and you started a life as, I think you trained in diplomacy, international relations, and that has taken you on to be the High Commissioner. You've worked all over the world. How has that experience been? And then we will go to contrast that with your new profession of politician. So just take us through that journey, really.
I mean, when we were talking about the youth movement, I was also very active in Folk Research Center. And a member of the National Trust then. I think in the early days I was very ideological, very, very ideological. If you ask students at A-level, they would tell you we had our own little movement at A-level college in terms of our own level of consciousness. I had a lot of regard for the trade union leaders in St. Lucia, you know, the Henry Charles and David DeMarc and Tyrone Maynard and, you know, Lawrence Poyot. Growing up for me, those guys were the real champions. You know, I was not... in many ways, I probably think I was a little more radical in terms of where we think society should go. And of course, I went to university, and I think I did well at university, became a Cambridge scholar, eventually doing a PhD at London School of Economics. And the jobs for me, and I don't know, I wanted to be very heavily involved in social development. And then the Berlin Wall collapsed in the early 90s when I was a student. And I really became intrigued by international politics, international affairs. And when I was growing up, those were the days when they just introduced CNN and all those things, and you see in the United Nations meeting and trying to solve world problems. And I had this inkling to be at the UN and to work for an international organization and help solve some of the big problems of the world. And when the Berlin Wall collapsed and everything started to change, I decided, yes, international politics is what it is for me. Let me really understand some of those things. And I studied that. But my professional development is slightly different. From NYC days, and Mario Michel is probably the person that changed my life most. Because when I got involved in NYC, we had a certain disposition at school and how we saw life and things. But with Mario Michel, he really set a lot of us on a certain path in terms of recognizing our abilities and achieving it. And he really transformed a lot of our lives in many ways. And he always encouraged me to be involved in the operations. I became the administrative officer of NYC because I was always the one planning every event. Always planning, always the one organizing. Strategy is I love it. I breathe. That's what excites me about things, is the whole strategy and the operations, whatnot. So I was, again, always involved in that aspect of it. So even if intellectually I had a fascination of international politics, my natural skills had a lot more to do with strategy and operations, whatnot. And I got involved, you know, in cricket, organizing, you know, events and activities like that. And my professional life took a slightly different turn to my academic life. And McKinsey recruited me. When somebody, you know, I got this invitation to join the McKinsey recruitment, I was like, huh, for what? McKinsey is this big international consultancy, they don't advertise, you never see a McKinsey ad, but yet they find only Ivy League people. And it took me about a year and a half to go through the recruitment process. Wow. And then I got selected as which office in the world do you want to work in. I remember wanting to go to Miami, Johannesburg, or London. And I ended up in New Jersey, where they had pharmaceuticals, you know, Pfizer and all those, AstraZeneca, whatnot. Pharmaceuticals is a big thing. And a lot of strategy and operations, rolling out new products and sales and whatnot. I met the brightest people in the world, literally, at McKinsey. You know, you believe you might have a little, you know, bright spark, and then you meet people and you feel dumb. That's how you felt then. But Cricket World Cup in St. Lucia really transformed my perspective on a lot of things in St. Lucia. Cricket World Cup is the biggest event I think we ever had in St. Lucia, and it really meant mobilizing as many St. Lucian talents as possible to make it happen. And I think I saw the best in St. Lucia. I mean, working with St. Lucian professionals then, and there was no politics involved in that. It was just, how do we get Cricket World Cup and to be a success and show off to the world that we can be the best in the region. And when we had hundreds of St. Lucians, maybe thousands in terms of volunteers, you know, workers at all different levels, different committees. And let me tell you, I felt so proud as a St. Lucian for us to have achieved what we achieved. And people felt St. Lucia was the best organized. And for me to have been the CEO, heading the team, was a real honor and special privilege for me. And it even opened doors for me, because when the ICC wanted to do the World T20 tournament, their thing was, you know, Ernest, Hilaire, we want, you know, to do it. And I became the tournament director for the ICC, put together another team of professionals to do it. And then West Indies Cricket Board was going through all the issues. They've had 5 years of player strikes, and somebody had a bright idea that they needed somebody to turn over West Indies cricket, fight the battles, just, you know, reset the button. And they asked me, so I left the ICC World T20, and then I went to do West Indies Cricket Board. And I can tell you, Monday, I don't know that there's any job in the world more difficult than being CEO of West Indies Cricket. Trust me. You literally, every single day, you feel your hairs getting grey, you know, from the stress and pressure of it. And then Dr. Anthony and I had a conversation, and, you know, decided maybe I should consider the High Commissioner job. And I told him I was certainly interested, whatnot. And I became High Commissioner. And it fulfilled...
got to use your
precisely. And it fulfilled my boyhood dream, which was to be a diplomat solving world problems and to be an ambassador. So I went full circle and to become a diplomat. But I'll also tell you, I had never stayed in a job for more than 3 years. This is the longest I've ever been in a job. I mean, every other job I had never lasted more than 3 years. This time I'm 4.5 years into this job, and it's a special job. It's not a job that you can define by professional ambition. You just have to serve the people you promised to serve. So I became a diplomat. Now, a lot of my friends always, you know, tease me because they know my natural disposition. I like a debate, I like an argument, I like, when we sit down as friends having played dominoes, I think it's always a quarrel, argument, the fellas throwing jokes on each other, whatnot. Diplomacy requires a different kind of skill, a tempering of your spirit and your natural inclinations to engage people. You need to listen a little more, you need to be a little more reflective, whatnot. And I'm very grateful for Dr. Anthony having given me the opportunity to serve St. Lucia as a diplomat, because it certainly taught me to temper a bit and to just, you know, sit down and listen a little more.
For this job.
But in a way it did. Trust me, if I had not had that stint of preparation, I probably would be seeing a lot more things and behaving a lot differently. So it really prepared me. I think West Indies Cricket Board prepared me. I say to people, sometimes I look at my life's journey and I know there is a God Almighty, you know, because West Indies Cricket Board taught me how to handle pressure, how to deal with immense pressure. And being a diplomat really taught me about just chilling out, chill and chat, you know, almost, you know, to just chill and just relax and listen to other people and whatnot. But being a diplomat also has its privileges and its prestige, especially London. I think London is the most prestigious posting. You get the opportunity to go to the palace, meet this, and go to different engagements. And I was also ambassador to France. So it gave me the opportunity to go to Paris and to meet people. I was permanent representative to a number of organizations. But you serve your country, and you have to serve, you know, at the behest of the government and the instructions that you get. But you serve your country first and foremost. And so there's a little less space for individuality or for you to express your own self on matters before you, because you are following your country's foreign policy and everything else. So I think I've had an interesting journey, you know, in my life professionally. Started off as a teacher and now a politician. A lot of my friends ask me, but why did you do that? Why on heaven's earth would you decide to go and become a politician?
Well, we have to answer that question when we come back from the break. And I will be very, it'd be very interesting to hear you've left all of this behind to become a politician. But St. Lucia, this was the first segment of Chill and Chat with Honorable Dr. Hilaire, and we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, St. Lucia. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and my guest on Chill and Chat is the MP for Castries South, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire. So, Dr. Hilaire, before we went to the break, you had taken us through literally the exciting journey of your life professionally. And now we're here, the big question. After being ambassador, working for international cricket, West Indies cricket, Mackenzie, you gave all of that up essentially, because I know you could have probably had your choice, your pick after that. Why would you come back home to be a politician?
I'll tell you, I never in the early days saw myself as a politician, as a practicing politician elected. I was actually brought into the political arena since by Mario Michel, because like I told you, from NYC days, and I started being an activist even before I had age to vote, you know, in the Labour Party. Mario, as you know, and eventually became Deputy Prime Minister, was a mentor to all of us. So, you know, Julian Hunt had just become leader of the Labour Party, I think 1984. NYC was formed in 85. So from 85, in a sense, you were involved in it. And Mario had a profound influence on all of us. So I had a little dislike for, coming out of my growing up on the block days, a dislike for the system and institutions. I didn't trust. I loved my NYC and what I was doing and my militancy, whatnot. But political parties, I had a real dislike for it. But I grew up in a Labour Party setting. I mean, literally, you grew up in an area where people, you know, John Odlum was a hero, George Odlum was a hero, Labour Party. I knew what Labour Party had done for my mother and the opportunities we had gotten, whatnot. And I got involved very early, like I said, in the Labour Party. Was not even 18 yet. And there's something about politics that I love, the strategy. You see, a campaign, I love a campaign. I mean, you know, it's like a adrenaline junkie when it comes to a campaign, to sit down and to plan it and to strategize. And that really excites me, and I think that brings out the best in me. So I got involved in Labour Party, the 87 elections, to get with Mario again. 92, I was at Kville, but I came down for the elections. And then when I finished, I think it was Cambridge, I went to Barbados Kville to teach, and I met Owen Arthur. And Owen Arthur and I became very close friends. He was a lecturer at Kville and part-time lecturer. And then he eventually became Prime Minister. It's a long story, which we don't have time for. And then he introduced me to Kenny Anthony.
Okay.
He introduced me to Kenny Anthony. I had never known Kenny Anthony before. Kenny Anthony was just a legend because, you know, he has this bright St. Lucia, outstanding person, charismatic personality, brilliant speaker. And I finally got to know him. And Owen told me he's going to go back to St. Lucia to be leader of the Labour Party. And I was like, yeah, things going to happen. And then Mario Michel was going to go for Labour Party, who was my mentor. So I literally gave up my teaching job at Kville for a semester and came down in February 1997 to work with Mario and Dr. Anthony for the campaign of 97. Of course, we won, and Dr. Anthony asked me to be his administrative attaché. But all that time, I'm still in the background, you know, the strategizing, the operations, which is my natural strengths. And I enjoyed that. I went internationally, worked in different countries. Of course, I got married. I had 2 daughters then. The marriage did not last, but I had 2 daughters who are the most important people in my life, really. And they were growing, and I was working overseas. What do? I felt at the time I had to be back home because my daughters are now starting to grow, forming their own individuality more and more. And I'm missing that, and I really had this urge in me to just go back home. But I had become PS Youth and Sports. So what was I going to do? To go back home to be what? To do what? And, you know, those things were in my head that I'm going to go back home. And then certain opportunities started to open up in terms of cricket consultancies. IPL had been formed. The CPL which is in the Caribbean, I was the person who led the formation of the initial Caribbean T20. Myself, Cindy, Emmanuel, and a few other persons in Alicia. We started off it and then eventually became CPL, and there were a couple of opportunities on the horizon. And I was thinking, you know what, I could go back home and, you know, become a consultant. A few people internationally asked me to assist, whatnot, and came back home, and then I heard a little talk that Castries South might be opening up in a certain way, and it started to just, prick my curiosity, and it developed and it developed. And there's a book I read by Jeremy Paxman. He writes about, he did a survey of hundreds of politicians in England, the political animal, and he tried to find out why is it people go into politics. And it's a fascinating book. Yeah. I ask anybody to read it, and I literally had read that book. And I thought, what? Them guys just talking nonsense. That's why you want to become a politician? Just so I'd seen what Mario went through, I've seen what Dr. Anthony went through. And then it struck me, and I felt myself wanting to become a candidate and to go up for elections. And I know to myself I'm better as a campaign manager, as a strategist, than as a representative, because I had just never seen myself exactly in that frame. Partly because I'm a person who likes to speak my mind. I like to say what's on my mind, plain and simple. And I don't hold grudges. I don't expect people to hold grudges. Of course, the real world is not like that. And certainly in politics and political parties, it's not like that.
But perhaps you now realize that somebody would have to do to you what you
yeah, precisely. In fact, that was my issue. And somebody like you now, yes, doing a lot of the roles that I played, so you can understand it. And then I now have to become a candidate, and I wanted to do it. And Robert was going to not go back up, and yes, I was going to become the candidate. But all of a sudden, I started to think all the things I wanted as a young man on the block, on the bridge, all the opportunities I had that took me where I became in life. Maybe I can do it for the young people. Maybe I can transform Castries South and all the hard work of the Roberts and John Hodlam. I can take it to another level. And I started to get excited and intoxicated by those thoughts. And it's like, yeah, you got to do it. You have to do it. And then, like you said, reality struck me when I became a candidate. Somebody have to manage you now, Mm-hmm. Somebody have to discipline you to do things a particular way. And it's a difficult transition. And even now, it's still a difficult transition. I don't think I've achieved it. To just sit back, relax, just be a candidate and let people manage you. And just do what they tell you to go and do. Can't really work like that for me. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do, to be able to come and to transform Castries South. All the things I wanted as a young man growing up on the block, I want to do it. It has given me an opportunity now, Moni, to get to know family in Basse Joseph, because my mother's from Basse Joseph. She moved by the bridge. My elder brothers and them knew relatives in Basse Joseph, but I never really knew them. We used to visit off and on, whatnot. And I went up for an election and meeting people who are my relatives. And a little guilty because I never over the years had developed, I think, and like I said, my mother had left the area and came to live outside. It has given me an opportunity to get to know people, to get to know relatives, to connect with people in the last 4.5 years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. So yeah, that's why I went into politics. I think I really want an opportunity to transform Castries South, to do things in Castries South. I mean, I'd love to be in Cicero and sit down in the stands and watch a modern playing field in Cicero. I'd love to see a court in Fuasho.
But that's the issue now. Everyone goes in thinking they'll be in government.
Yeah, that's the point.
Your first term, you're an opposition MP.
Yeah.
Sadly, our structure does not allow for opposition MPs to have access to government funds to do for the amelioration of constituencies and communities. How have you navigated that?
Well, for me, essentially what I had to do was just go back to basics. There were people who were saying, oh, you can't connect with people, you let this, you let that. I knew I grew up in a youth movement where I was attending youth meetings all over St. Lucia, meeting people all over St. Lucia. So for me, that's a no-no. Just go back to basic, Ernest, which means your community activism days, go back to it. So I just went back to do what I love most and what I'm best able to do, organize community events. So what did I start to do? In Fuasho, organize with Marcus Tupac and them the Fuasho Dance Festival. In Cicero, started a pageant. Journée Creole, we started, a fruitcake and sorrel competition. We started a carnival parade in the community. In Basse Joseph, we started a solo. Cricket every Easter, which Robert had started, continued it, started football competitions, and just do the things that I enjoy doing, organizing community events and building community cohesion. At the same time, just go and meet the people. Because I became a candidate in March 2016. Election was in June. I really did not have a chance to reach out and meet people. I mean, I was very heavy in the social media. I understood how digital campaigning operated. I realized nobody in St. Lucia was doing it, so I really jumped on the opportunity, and it helped me a lot in terms of spreading and connecting. But now I had a chance to connect with people one-on-one. So that's what I've essentially done for 4.5 years, connecting with people, organizing my community events. But there are immense pressures for you to give people material satisfaction because, as you know, the constituency has quite a few distressing and challenging areas, and people want galvanized, they want plywood, they need to get supplies for their households, they need to take care of their children, they need to buy their medication, they need to go and see doctors, and they have material needs, and you're not in government. You cannot call an SSDF or a ministry to say, can you help this person do this? Can you help this child do that? You are severely limited by that. But I have found out that, you know, there are people, if you reason with them and you tell them the limit to which you can assist, they are grateful. There's some people that will never be grateful, let me tell you. In politics, you learn just how challenging that can be. So for the last 4.5 years, it has sometimes been a roller coaster of emotions that you really see people who appreciate and they really work with you and they understand your realities. And there are people who just frustrated with life and they have no space and time for anything else but meeting their needs. But I have always learned to just go back to basics. Do what you are best at and what you love the most. And if that can't work for you, move on.
But now the politics for you, you have a constituency to deal with. You have your personal life, you said you have 2 daughters. But now you've literally had personal political attacks. Which is something I don't think anybody ever bargains for you. I don't know if anybody prepares for this. You prepare for little things, but not literal. You have worked very hard over the years to create this image, your professionalism, and to come into politics and literally have a witch hunt for you over 4 years. How has that been for you, Dr. Hilaire? You know, we see your posts on social media. We see you even here smiling, speaking about it. But how has that been for you?
First of all, let me look at in terms of the people that are close to me. I have some really supportive friends, and family, my siblings and some of my relatives who always come and give strength and reach out to you, whatnot. Friends are important because your immediate circle. My best friend is my brother. So, you know, I have some really good friends, and they support you and give you the strength. And then I have my 2 daughters. But the thing about it, I think, in some ways, they're kind of special. I mean, every parent believes their children special. You know, Maya, my eldest daughter, is in New Jersey at a school. And she's amazing because she follows everything on Facebook and Instagram. But I think she's a very perceptive child. And Anya was very free-spirited. I mean, they're born the same day, 2 years apart, but they're totally different. Anya, but I think they understand what's going on. Maya, in some ways, is her own political activist. She has a very strong sense of social justice as well. I don't think Anya, like I keep telling Anya, the revolution will go by and she will still be on the beach, you know, enjoying the beach. But when it comes to me and what I am going through, I think I have kind of prepared them to understand that this is what it is. And do not take it personal. Do not develop any resentment, hatred towards anybody. This is what it is. This is a battle I have decided to be part of. I think I know I am doing it. And time will prove me right. And I believe in that. So I think they have come to understand that. So even the last 2 days, just relating to them and talking to them about what's going on, I've prepared them to that. I've told them what is the worst that can happen to me. I've literally told them that and prepared them for that. And I believe it's possible because I believe we're dealing with some people that are wicked and nasty in the politics of St. Lucia. We've never had that before like we have now. But I think when I got involved and I saw the first signs of what was happening once I got involved, and a lot of the talk that was going around as to why I got involved is because maybe certain things down the road would happen. I started to mentally prepare myself for a battle that would be as intense as it is now. And sometimes when those things happen, I think I become very numb, very, very numb to what's going on. And of course, when you then reach out to your friends, you create a kind of safe space. Yes. But the safest space for me is my two daughters, to be honest. Just talking to them and just, being with them and hearing them talk. I also convinced that I am a blessed person. I mean, the journey I think I have been through in my life, I could never have achieved what I achieved and gotten the opportunities that I have gotten if there wasn't a God above. I literally tell people that I went to K-ville, I didn't know how I was going to finish university. I finished it, I did quite well. To Cambridge to get a scholarship, to do a PhD, to get the job opportunities I have gotten. Every time I'm in a job, I get an offer for an even bigger and better job. Where does that come from? I don't even know that I deserve those opportunities, Mondi. I mean, literally, I don't think I deserve those opportunities, but they keep coming. Even whilst I'm a politician now, I got an offer to be a CEO of a cricket franchise, and I'm like, seriously, I'm there taking my blows in politics, and y'all want to make me a big offer like this? But I just believe that, I can't complain about what I am going through now, from the sense that other people are going through worse stuff, cancer and, worse situations than mine. But I just know that I will be vindicated, and whoever wants to believe what they believe, that's their case. I will, this battle, I will succeed in it. And at the end of the day, I will have the last laugh. And I can't change the minds of some people, and so be it. But I know one day the people of St. Louis shall be the better for it.
Yes, and we've seen you, literally, the witch hunt continue, and you have, right after it, gone to your constituency, serving the needs of people. Do you think that there was, somewhat of wanting to distract you from what's really important in the politics? Because politics is about people. And I don't know that it should be about personality and these sorts of things.
I mean, you are right that you certainly, I think they want you to be distracted. They want you to be, lose your focus. I think they also want to destroy your credibility and desecrate you. If you are a person relentlessly exposing them, if I can destroy his credibility, people will listen to him less. But I don't know that they understand me, or the people around me, or even the resolve of the influences I have around me, because that's not going to work. It's not going, I'm not saying I must win the next election. You don't know, that's destiny is not entirely in my hands. A lot of it's in my hands, but not entirely. But I have that deep faith, that deep belief that if I just do the right things for the right reasons, I can never be. One of my favorite books, and we probably will talk about that, is a book by Gary Bernstein that's called No Fear of Failure. I actually read that book over just before I decided to become a candidate. Just before because some people were telling you, boy, you must go in that, you must never lose, you must go there for an attitude and the art of war and all them things. And I said, no. I read that book. You must never be afraid of failure. And once you can prepare yourself and recognize failure is an opportunity to be better than what you were before. I love debating. I tell my friends and even people I work with, don't be afraid to criticize me. Don't be afraid. It's the only way I'll get better. That doesn't mean I won't defend myself, huh? Yes. But I love the criticism. I love somebody challenging me. That brings out the best in me. So, I mean, I'm not afraid of taking on challenges and maybe not even succeeding, whatnot. But Monday, it'll take a lot to distract me and throw me off my game. As long as my daughters, my friends around me are giving me the strength I have and my faith in the Almighty. My mother, sometimes I'm a little worried, about her and how she can respond, because she's always in a story. Always in a story. But again, too, she will tell me every day that she prays for me and that I just must always do the right thing. Toujours faire ça qui nécessite. And she gives me the lecture. So I feel strong, and I have some good comrades around me, the political leader, and some of the other colleagues and candidates, and who give strength. I mean, you're in a political party and you know the realities of a political party, but I have some good comrades around me who give me strength. So I don't feel weak at all, to be honest. And when I go around the constituency too, that's the thing about it, you know, I don't feel, you know, I feel strong. I mean, sometimes, I used to tell people, when I was in Prime Minister's office, we had just done the National Skills Development Center. And sometimes when I had a bad day, I used to just go to BZ and just watch all the youths learning their skills, and I used to feel motivated and inspired. Sometimes when I feel battered and bruised, if all what's going on, I just drive through the constituency and I just feel stronger. And for me, maybe I'm fooling myself, but I literally feel inspired when I talk to my team members and we drive around the constituency. Some people, of course, they always want this, you can't give it to them, and that keeps me up at night. I can't sleep sometimes because the demands are so immense. But you learn how to compartmentalize and put things in different compartments and deal with them.
Okay. Senator, I'm with Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, the MP for Castries South, and we have to take a break, but we'll be right back with Chill and Chat. Welcome back, St. Lucia. I'm your host, Molly Lewis. This is Chill and Chat with Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, the MP for Castries South. So we've really gone through the life, very fascinating roller coaster ride with Honorable Dr. Hilaire, but now we'll go through some fun stuff with him, just to pick his brain, to know some of the things that motivate him. So Dr. Hilaire, we're going through our quick fire segment. You know, just don't give it too much thought.
Okay.
And just answer honest.
That's difficult to do.
As possible. Okay, so first question. Who's the one person who changed your life?
Mario Michel.
Oh yeah, you actually answered that earlier.
Yeah.
Mario Michel. And I mean, you did go into it, so we don't even have to go there. 3 favorite books?
Well, I mentioned No Fear of Failure by Gary Bernstein. Third Wave by Alvin Toffler. I said No Fear of Failure. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, I think, is a very good book to read. And I must give you a 4th. I must give you a Paulo Coelho.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I was waiting for
And
that.
it's which one? Because there are quite a few. But I'll give you The Alchemist. But there are a couple others I can throw in there. Veronica Decides to Die and a few others. Because he's my favorite author. So maybe,
Okay.
So No Fear of Failure, Tipping Point, Third Wave, Alchemist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good recommendation.
Yeah.
Finish the statement. What St. Lucia needs now is?
Pressing the reset button. We need to heal. We need to bring people together. Reduce all the bitterness, the division. Just all of us just chill and just go back to basics of how can we relate to each other better, and let's together try and solve the problems. We can't solve the problems if we don't press the reset button. St. Lucia just needs to press the reset button.
Okay. What's your favorite place in St. Lucia?
I will answer it in the context of what makes me feel most comfortable and relaxed, where, and it have to be somewhere in Castries South, because that's and when I go back on the block, like I will do in a while, and just chill with some of the fellas and just watch them play dominoes, let them talk football, talk cricket, talk music, and just chill out, and I forget about all the politics and everything else, and I just remember my days. So it has to be the block in Castries South, Hospital Road, or by the old cemetery. I haven't been there for a while. My birthday was last weekend, so I need to pass there and have a drink with the fellas this afternoon.
Okay. What is the one issue that you would tackle if, you know, you got the genie and he says the one issue you tackle in your constituency? What would that be?
Unemployment. No two ways about it.
Why Philip J. Pierre for Prime Minister?
I mean, it's a very easy question. I mean, Philip is a caring person, deep, unapologetic, unpretentious. He cares about people. You can say what you want about Philip J. Pierre. Nobody can ever question, once you've dealt with Philip J. Pierre and spoken to him, that he genuinely cares about people, first and foremost. Everything else can come after, but he cares about people in a way which is, you know, fascinating. I can tell you that. All the stress you'll be in with Philip, all the stress going on and debate, and he'll remember, oh yes, I have to do something for somebody. I'm like, where'd that come from? And he picked up the phone, yeah, and then he does that. You cannot deny a man like that, seriously.
Very nice. What keeps you up at night?
The needs of people, the demands, and I just can't meet and satisfy so much of it. It literally keeps me up.
Okay. Why the St. Lucia Labour Party?
Because many ways, like Philip Japier, the St. Lucia Labour Party cares about people. We can talk about policy and economic, who manage country. The Labour Party attracted me because I benefited from a Labour Party that cared about people, genuinely cares about people in a way that I think is sometimes understated. We may not be the one who give the business people the most incentives, but you see the ordinary people, we do give them the most. And for me, first and foremost, that matters.
Okay. If you could choose a superpower, what would that be?
I'm not sure what a power is, but you see, wisdom, we have too many problems to solve, and we don't have enough answers. And we need people that can understand those problems and come up with solutions and implement them. I would love to have that superpower.
You want answers? Yeah.
Wisdom.
Oh, wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah. Last question. Chasing waterfalls or the beach?
Oh, the beach, anytime. Anytime. I miss it, and also I had two daughters who were swimmers and absolutely love the beach. I don't know many waterfalls in St. Lucia, so it has to be the beach.
Or you're not from the south?
No, I'm not. No. I'm from by the, the bay. The bay, yeah.
Understood. Okay, so that's it for our quick fire questions. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Dr. Hilaire, so we're going to wrap up our conversation now. You're an MP in opposition, being victimized, but you're still so very hopeful. Especially in a time like now, I mean, before it was bad. Now with the pandemic, it's just so uncertain. What do you think would be the advice that you give to your constituents and even St. Lucians? A lot of small businesses will have to close. A lot of small businesses have closed. What is that resolve? What are the words that you tell to people that you think that keeps you going?
Yeah. I think for me, the first thing we have to say to all St. Lucians, constituents of Castries South, is that we need to learn to follow the protocols. I mean, forget whether this government lies to you, forget whether they're telling us the truth, forget whether, we expect better from them. Your first responsibility is to safeguard your life and the lives of the people around you. The protocols will help in reducing the spread of COVID. First and foremost, that is our duty, to respect the protocols as much as possible and make sure we limit any further spread and impact of COVID on our lives, first and foremost. Beyond that, we must recognize that these are exceptional times, difficult times, and we need to be stronger than we normally are. This is a time when people are getting depressed. People are getting frustrated. I deal with it every day. People are psychologically dislocated. And we need to be stronger. Every single one of us. Myself, I mean, I'm getting so many requests and demands. I have to be strong to manage that and not even get annoyed with people who are persistent that they need me to help them because they too going through their challenges. So we need to be stronger than ever to deal with the challenges and the psychological pressure and the burden of this COVID-19. And I want to say to all St. Lucians and all the constituents to find that inner strength, to find that faith that yes, we will get out of this, and yes, we will make it, and we will rise again, and to have that strength, to care for your children, and to just keep going, we will make it, we will make it. I think that's important for the business persons and other people to find that extra sensitivity in you to make sure that people are treated right, fair, and just. Because it's demanding, it's difficult, doesn't mean we must take advantage of workers and other people in need. We need to, as employers, to find that empathy and that sensitivity to make sure we still, be fair and just to people. At a wider level, I think we need a government that genuinely cares about people first and foremost. And that's not just political sloganing. We need that. The people matter more than anything else. But it comes down to ideological understanding and how people see the world. Some people believe the best way you can care for people is if you make business thrive and certain people make more money, then they'll trickle down and spend it on the people. Some of us don't think that's the best way to do it. Some of us believe we must put people first and foremost and in the center, in the vanguard of whatever we do. Yes, those things are needed, but we must make sure that our people, and I would love to see more resources be put into the people and the welfare of the people. Too many people are making demands for food, for supplies, for comfort, and they're just not getting it. And I think it's upside down in terms of the priorities. And, you know, I really would say to the government to show more empathy and to treat people with more decency and ensure that people have civilized standards of living that can make them feel that they are human beings first and foremost. And that's a fight that we're fighting at the political level. And once elections are called, we will be making the case to the people of St. Lucia to say to them that really we care about you and we're putting you first. And that putting you first means to put you in the vanguard of the development process, but in this instance, the fight against COVID as well.
St. Lucia, that's it for Chill and Chat. Thank you, Dr. Hilaire, for being our guest. Yeah. And please, St. Lucia, stay safe. And that's all for this edition of Chill and Chat. I'm your host, Molly Lewis, wishing you a good evening.